Come on, I want to get to the top.
Sometimes a game comes out of nowhere and surprises you. That's kind of what happened with Echoes of the End. It's a cinematic
There's a
fantasy
rope for
action
weaknesses to get
adventure
across.
from a
Hold
smaller
on, I
studio.
better go first.
And while it clearly takes inspiration from big titles like modern action RPGs, it still manages to carve out its own identity. The story can feel a bit predictable at times, but the combat and world kept me engaged enough to see it through the end. In Echoes of the End, you play as Rin, a warrior with powerful magical abilities, who sets out to rescue her kidnapped brother and uncover a conspiracy that could spark a massive war. Along the way, she's joined by a companion named Abram, who helps in both combat and puzzle solving. The gameplay is a mix of third person action combat, exploration, and puzzles. Combat blends swordplay with magic abilities, letting you chain attacks, launch enemies into the environment, and finish them off with flashy executions. This is where the game really shines. The combat feels responsive and fun once you unlock more abilities, especially when you start combining melee attacks with magic powers and teamwork moves with your companion. The game also includes platforming and environmental puzzles, using abilities like gravity manipulation and traversal skills such as dashes and double jumps. Personally, I thought the balance leaned a little too heavy toward puzzles and traversal at times. Some sections slow down the pacing when you just want to get back into the action. Overall, though, the gameplay loop works. Fight enemies, solve puzzles, explore new areas, unlock abilities. It's not the deepest combat system out there, but it's satisfying enough to keep things entertaining for the roughly 14-hour campaign. Visually, the game looks great. The world is heavily inspired by Icelandic landscapes, so you get environments that are filled with glaciers, volcanic terrain, lava fields, and ancient
Let's start
ruins.
moving packs.
Some of the environments are genuinely impressive, especially the
I'll
white
pass.
landscapes and dramatic lighting. It definitely feels like a cinematic universe. The sound design is solid as well. The music does a good job supporting the tone of the story, and the voice acting helps sell the characters and their relationship throughout the journey. It's not quite AAA polish in every scene, but for a smaller studio's
Get up this
first
way.
major game, the presentation is honestly pretty impressive.
No sign of Tirta up here. Up ahead. What is that?
A cairn.
Echoes
Let's
of the
stop.
End does a lot of things well, especially when it comes to combat and presentation. The mix of swordplay and magic abilities makes fights feel fast and satisfying, and the environments are genuinely beautiful, with landscapes that are clearly inspired by dramatic Nordic scenery. The voice acting and overall cinematic style also helps the story moments land better. However, the game isn't without its issues. The story leans heavily on familiar fantasy tropes and can feel predictable, and the enemy variety is fairly limited, which can make combat start to feel repetitive after a while. Some sections also rely a bit too much on puzzles and platforming, which slows the pacing when you just want to jump back into the action. And there are occasional rough edges that remind you that this isn't a massive AAA production. Echoes of the End isn't trying to reinvent the genre, and it definitely borrows ideas from bigger action adventure games. The story is a bit cliche, and some systems could use more depth. But the combat is fun, the world looks great, and the overall adventure is enjoyable from start to finish. If you're looking for a solid fantasy action game that you can finish over a weekend, this one is worth checking out. It gets a 7 out of 10.
How are there so many of them?
I told you, they